Welcome back to New Record Day. My name is Ron. If you are into two-channel audio, consider yourself an audiophile or music enthusiast. Welcome home. Make sure you hit the subscribe button and bell notifications so you know when the next video drops. In today's video, we're going to be taking a quick break from the Sapphire series and check out the Yamaha AS2200. For those who have followed New Record Day for a while, you already know we have covered the AS2100 in our Yamaha versus Yamaha video. I would imagine that many of you guys are probably wondering how the new 2200 stacks up and so much more. And with a warm welcome back to New Record Day, that is exactly what we are going to find out. Buying cables or hi-fi components doesn't need to be complicated, nor does it need to break the bank. Today's show sponsor, Audio Art Cable, is here to help with a wide variety of cables and hi-fi products for every budget. Also, Rob has some new coupon codes just for you guys. 5% off all Triangle loudspeakers with free shipping, 5% off a killer new R2R DAC called the Sonnet Morpheus, again with free shipping, and last 20% off all cable purchases over $500. All the details for these coupon codes are down below, so make sure you check them out in the links provided and save today. Alright folks, before we jump in, I wanted to briefly mention that starting with today's video release, I've actually prepared a comparison video exclusive for NRD patrons. In this video, I cover my favorite speaker pairings with the 2200, and yes, I even make comparisons with some other gear that I have in-house. So, consider becoming a patron today and enjoy this review. All the details for signing up are down below in the description, and thank you, we appreciate it. Alright, price just under $4,000 bucks. The Yamaha AS2200 is a fully balanced, solid-state integrated amplifier that features one balanced input, 4 single-ended line inputs, 2 of them being labeled as CD and tuner, and a built-in phono section covering both moving magnet and moving coil cartridges. Taking a look at the front of the amp, the Yamaha offers a power switch, a discrete headphone amplifier with a 1/4-inch output. Yes, I have used it, and yes, it sounds amazing with both high and low impedance headphones, a trim control for the inputs on the back, an A and B speaker selector, a switch for changing how the front VU meters read, tone and balance controls, the input selector, a phono switch, and last, an audio mute switch. Above the front panel dials and switches, there is a volume knob, which of course demands to be turned up, and as you do so, ladies and gentlemen, we have dancing VU meters. Looks like there's hope for 2020 after all. On the business end, besides all the input jacks for goodies we have already covered, there are a couple notable features that we should chat about. The 2200 has the ability to run as a preamp and features a pair of single-ended outputs. This gives some flexibility of using the Yamaha's front end into anything that you like, or of course you can run these into powered subwoofers if you need it. On the flip side, for those of you who want to try a different preamp or front end into the Yamaha, it also offers single-ended main inputs that does exactly that. I cannot stress how handy this feature is, and being able to try different preamps running into this amp can move the tone in very interesting directions. As an example, I loved running the amazing Modrite SWL 9.0 into the Yamaha, and in this example we are softening the top end just a little and adding some holographic magic from the Modrite. Obviously, this setup isn't practical for those who are looking to buy the 2200 as a one-and-done solution, but knowing the vast majority of my audience are hardcore audiophiles, I wouldn't be shocked if many of you guys have some preamps laying around that you could certainly experiment with. Now, under the hood, the Yamaha lays down its tonal fingerprints, starting with its massive 625 volt amps toroidal transformer. Even more, Yamaha is taking grounding of the amp seriously and uses thick wires for all grounded connections, adding to the overall low impedance design of the amplifier. Now, thick wires are neat and all, but taking things further, Yamaha also employs their mechanical ground concept. Starting with the large power transformer, block capacitors, and heatsink directly bolted to the chassis, while the feet, with bolts directly welded to the main chassis, provide further reinforcement for absolute rigidity. Now, if this kind of attention to detail isn't impressive, the fact that Yamaha has taken note to cheesy speaker terminals and kicked them to the curb where they belong is a nice touch to see. In the case of the 2200, you'll be wrapping your hands around custom-made terminals cut directly from brass, which allows easy tightening by hand and accepts any type of speaker connection you can imagine. Last but not least, the Yamaha A-S2200 comes with a nicely made aluminum-faced remote control with all the buttons and functions you need to run the amp from the listening position. Also, when you press the mute button, it actually doesn't kill the music signal completely, it just attenuates enough to carry an easy conversation. This was a cool surprise and something that I appreciated. Many of you will ask the question, what's the difference between the older 2100 and 2200 we are checking out today? They do look nearly identical, and there doesn't seem to be a ton of differences to really unpack. With that being said, it looks as if there has been a change in the transformer, with the older 2100 offering an EI core, and the newer 2200 features a toroidal transformer. Also, while rather minor, the 2100 did not have a way of dimming the VU meters, and the 2200 does. Besides that, and I can't confirm this with authority, it looks as if the 2200 offers larger output caps, and the volume knob does look a little bit different from what I remember with the older 2100. If anyone knows any other details, feel free to correct me or add to the comments down below. Thanks, guys. So in the previous Yamaha versus Yamaha video we did years ago, one of the common descriptors that we used was comparing the Yamaha's overall voicing to that of tube amplification. With a few more years under my belt and experience, I feel a little bit more confident in explaining what the heck I was hearing, and I think I'll do a better job of explaining what I actually meant. Also, because it's difficult to know how you all plan on using the Yamaha and what features you are most interested in, I decided to tackle this review by exploring the house sound of Yamaha and explaining in detail what I hear when I fired up the older 2100 and now the 2200. First, let's get this part right. Regardless of the speaker connected to the Yamaha, it won't take long for you to understand that this amplifier is eager to kick the door down, and if you stand in the way, you might end up with a few missing teeth as well. Both the 2100 and 2200 are very powerful and confident sounding amplifiers from top to bottom. Noted as natural sound from Yamaha, and perhaps it is, I would declare the Yamaha house sound as rock and roll at heart without apologizing. So let's dive in and tackle what that actually means. When it comes to top-end extension, the Yamaha is incredibly revealing of not only what the speaker is doing, but what your components are telling the Yamaha to do as well. In other words, you need to be mindful of how much top-end your speakers have to offer, and even more, which direction your other components are headed to understand how is this Yamaha going to respond. Going back to the original Yamaha versus Yamaha video, I'd argue that while the top-end could be compared to tubes, it wouldn't be the sluggish, warm, or the relaxed variety. If anything, what I hear is closer to straight line tube performance, think KT88s or KT120s. And going by recent memory, I would say that it's closer to the performance of something like the Manley Snappers that we reviewed. Am I calling the top end of the Yamaha bright? No, not necessarily. As with most things hi-fi related, it's not that simple. What I am confident in saying is the 2200 is not interested in telling you sweet lies, and if your front end is tilted, the Yamaha is going to convey that without offering a hug to soften the blow. As an example, in my rig, I ran the Ineos Zenith and Denafrips Terminator into the 2200, and with every speaker that I have in-house, things on top sounded detailed, ballsy, and offered a tube-like presence, and that's the key word here, presence. On the other hand, if I swapped the Zenith from my MacBook Pro straight into the Terminator, I did take notice that what was noted as presence moved in the direction of sharp, which can be a bit much in longer listening sessions. So like I said, and I'll say it again, the top end of the Yamaha is ballsy and offers presence of some straight line tube amplifiers. Now, for those who are spinning vinyl with the Yamaha, no need to worry at all. The built-in phono section of the 2200 is top tier, dead silent, and offered beautiful top end without an ounce of sharp edges or fatiguing attributes. I gotta tell you guys, all this stuff that we gotta buy to get digital to sound like analog versus something as simple as just dropping the needle, it's hilarious. If I was to guess, the number one reason someone is going to fall in love with the Yamaha, it's probably going to be its capabilities in the mid-band. The 2200 offers a mid-range that punches through the mix and does an incredible job with dishing out each and every single instrument without an ounce of blurring or smearing. Even during incredibly complex passages, I have no problem not only hearing each and every detail in the mix, the kind of precision that I'm rambling about is if I close my eyes and concentrate, I can draw lines around each and every single instrument and the vocalist in the soundstage. Also, back to our keyword presence, it relates to everything in the midband just as it did with the Yamaha's tonal fingerprint up top. Some will call it forward, and I even called it forward in my original Yamaha versus Yamaha video. Either way, if you find yourself equating your rig's midband to drinking warm milk while knitting with grandma, the 2200 will quickly reconcile everything that you have been missing out on. Vocals on the Yamaha follow suit, and one thing I'll mention that might be perceived as tube-like warmth with the 2200 resides mostly in lower mid-range and male vocals. There seems to be something velvety happening with certain octaves and baritones. While it's difficult to say for sure, the lower pitched vocalists have a certain glow to their lower notes. Combining this trait with the presence of everything above and around the vocals can be pretty dang special. It's almost as if somebody duct taped one of the most exciting solid state amplifiers on the planet to a 300B tube amp and somehow got them to work at the exact same time, yet the golden glow of the 300Bs only touches the lower pitched vocals. So yeah, if someone out there hears something that they would describe as tube-like warmth in the Yamaha, especially with male vocals or lower mid-range, I'm picking up what you're putting down. The bass on the Yamaha will have you double checking the specs on the 2200 in no time at all. How this amp sounds so powerful and dynamic for its somewhat modest 90 watts into 8 ohms will have you scratching your head in a quick hurry. Because we are tracking through the spatial sapphires on this channel, I'm sure many of you are wondering, what's that combo like, and even more, what's the bass and dynamics like when using something like the 2200? Well, folks, there aren't enough creative words that I could pack into this review to convey just how insane that combo actually is. So, if dynamics and slam are your priority, you have nothing but a green light in front of you. Also, when it comes to texture and tone, the 2200 won't let you down either. I'm able to hear the attack of the instrument, the leading details, and even the decay that comes shortly after that. As far as I can tell, the bass performance on the 2200, hear me, is possibly perfect. It's powerful, it's precise, it's voiced correctly, and when needed, it hits like a mag truck. As I was mentioning before, it's possible other reviews out there will call the Yamaha as forward, meaning regardless of the speaker and play, it's going to feel as if you are in the front row and you can't get some distance from you and the stage. Now, there is some validity to the excitement in the Yamaha sound, but don't think for 1 second you can't get some depth out of this amplifier. First, and the most obvious, get your dang speakers away from the walls and use lots as a guide. Next, one trick in my opinion is feeding the 2200 with tubes somewhere upstream if you're playing in the digital sandbox, or simply plug in a turntable and presto, you're off to the races. In my case, trying the Lampezator Amber 3 DAC gave me some great depth in all things digital. That's not to say the Terminator didn't bring depth to the party, but the Amber 3 did seem to extend a little more. I would imagine the same could be said for experimenting with, things like tube buffers, preamps, or DACs, as it seemed to me this allowed the 2200 to really open up in the depth department. In the original Yamaha versus Yamaha video, I walked away from both the 2010 and the 2100 respecting the house sound of Yamaha. Both of those amplifiers sounded very similar, and declaring a clear winner, it was a challenge. Here we are again, many years later with the 2200 in the driver's seat, and I'm finding myself right back where I left off with the older review. Clearly, Yamaha knows how to consistently build amplifiers that not only stand the test of time, but sound incredible as well. As long as you understand the Yamaha house sound is packed with presence, and their definition of natural might start with the word excitement, well, you're in for a treat. As far as I can hear, the 2200 is an excellent choice for an all-inclusive integrated amplifier. Not only is it flexible in how you can implement it into your rig, whether you are taking advantage of its preamp and power amp capabilities, it's backed with a sonic footprint that's hard to beat on its own. While the Yamaha sound rides on the edge of being detail-centric, I can't possibly declare this as a warning, but a celebration that many of you can embrace. I do believe that those going digital can move the 2200 into a warmer direction, but it might require some help with tubes somewhere in the chain. In any event, it's easy to recommend the Yamaha 2200. It's beautifully designed and exhilarating to listen to. So yeah, check out the 2200. I'll be sure to leave links down below. And yeah, we'll see you guys in the next video.